Farewell, Innocence by William Glyn Jones. The boy climbed slowly up the linoleum stairways, his finger lightly drumming up on the polished banister rail. A childish voice called, "Yayan, is that you?" He paused on the landing. "Yes. What do you want?" "Come in for a little while, please. Only just a while." "Not tonight, Phyllis. I'm tired. Tomorrow night, perhaps." He crossed the landing to his own room. "Yayan!" This time it was his elder sister's voice he heard. "Oh, heck, what's the matter, Gwynaira?" "Little Phyllis wants a story." "Oh, come in for a couple of minutes." Phyllis, a dark-haired child of 6, sat up in bed. "Please tell us a story, Yayan. Only a little one." She drew her plaits under her chin. "You told us one every night, haven't you?" she challenged. "I'm starting work tomorrow." "Yes, there's nice," Phyllis piped. "And you'll have long trousers like Idris Jenkins has got. Aye, and a tweed cap with a big peak and a pair of dungarees too. A swank you'll be, won't you?" Yayan was silent. The prospect of starting work worried him. Sadness, fear, and apprehension he had inflicted with each emotion ever since his mother had pleaded with Mr. Bevan, the foundry manager, to give him an opportunity to learn a trade. Without discussing the matter with Dad, she had immediately gone to one of the cheapest clothing shops in town and bought a dungaree suit, a workman's peaked cap, navy blue flannel shirt, and a pair of heavy, hobnailed boots. "You start in Bevan's foundry on Monday," she said with finality. "I'll write a note for you to take to Griffith's headmaster in the morning. You've been in school long enough, and I see no sense in keeping you there much longer. Nearly 16 you are, and plenty of schooling you've had to last a lifetime. There's 5 bellies to feed in this house, and what money I get from your father goes like water. Poor as church mice we are, indeed." Her attitude startled him. The work he had in mind had no connection with the steel foundry or any other form of hard manual labour. His tastes ran to art and literature, and in one of those spheres he had often dreamt of finding a place for himself. He realized that it would mean years of study, but he was ready and eager to apply himself to the task so that he might achieve his ambition. Yayan sat down on the edge of the bed. A small white hand plucked at his sleeve. "Which one are you going to tell us tonight?" "Oh, for goodness sake, tell her a story or I'll never get to sleep," Gwynaira urged. Yayan lay back across the bed and rested his shoulder against the wall. He could sense their childish expectancy as they waited patiently in the darkness. "Sorry," he said after a while, "but I can't tell you a story tonight, Phil. I'm too tired, honest I am." "Ah, don't be daft," Gwynaira was peeved. "You haven't had no homework nor nothing, so how can you be tired?" "But I am," he protested. "I just can't think. Tell you what, I'll recite a piece of poetry. Will that be all right?" Phyllis clapped her hands. "Oh, yes, lovely." "Then you promise to be quiet? No interruptions and no questions, mind?" "No, I shan't ask nothing and I shan't interrupt. I'll be quiet like a little mouse, strike me down dead if I don't." "And you, Gwynaira, you promise too?" "Won't say a word, cross my heart, spit 3 times, look up to God, look down to Jesus." "Listen, Phil, I'll recite about Sir Galahad, and when he went to faraway lands to look for the Holy Grail." "Oh, yes, that is lovely." She wriggled under the bedclothes and lay still. "Light the candle, Yayan." "What for?" Gwynaira asked. "'Cause it'll be like the Holy Grail," came the muffled reply. "I know Mam won't be willing. I promise not to tell her if you promise not to tell her." Yayan smiled. "Close your eyes, Phil. Just picture that the Holy Grail is shining up there on the ceiling, like a big star made from all the gold and silver and diamonds in the world. There's no need for the candle. Just you close your eyes, good girl. He sat down gently on the bed. The room grew still. Only his sister's quiet breathing intruded on the silence. With eyes closed, he cleared his throat and softly began to recite. My good blade carves the casques of men. My rough lance thrusteth sure. My strength is as the strength of 10, because my heart is pure. The shattering trumpet shrilleth high, the hard brands shiver on the steel. The splintered spear shafts crack and fly, the horse and rider reel. They reel, they roll in clanging lists, and when the tide of combat stands, perfume and flowers fall in showers that lightly rain from the lady's hands. Thank you for the poetry. It was beautiful. Such a nice, sad story it was, and it makes me want to cry. I'll have a lovely dream tonight, I know. And good luck to you tomorrow. I hope you like it in the foundry. Yayan said nothing. He stood there in the darkness, suddenly feeling alone and frightened. Are you still there? Gwynaira called softly. Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry you have to go to the old foundry. Truly I am. Her voice was heavy with sadness. It would be better if Mum let me go to work. You're a good scholar, Yayan, and you should stay in school to pass your exams. When the doctor says my lungs are strong enough, I'll go look for a job myself. I'm nearly 13 now, so it won't be long. And then perhaps you could go back to school again? Or to college? The questions remained unanswered. Go to sleep. There's a good girl. Maybe I'll find I'll like the foundry. Then we'd feel silly, wouldn't we? He kissed her cheek. Well, I'm off to bed now. Good night, Cariad. Good night, Yayan. Sleep tight. He rubbed the chill from his feet and then climbed in under the blankets. The flannel shirt he wore next to his skin made him itch. He twisted and turned and finally lay on his side, knees drawn up to his chin, his hands wrapped in the folds of his shirt. The wind sighed through the bare branches of the trees in the garden, and as he listened, it sounded to him like the faraway, confused voices of children laughing and shouting at their play, an echo reminding him of the past when he was but a little boy playing in the streets, the back lanes and the fields with the childhood friends he knew. He thought back to those early days, striving to retain the impressions that crowded into his mind. He saw, as though on a shadowy canvas, the front parlour of the old house where he was born, before the family came to live in Pleasant Row. But why should he think only of that specific parlour, in a house which had 5 other rooms? What significance did it hold for him? Was it not into that room they brought his father news of the son born to him? And had it not been told that his father had wept? And when a man cries, especially a father, it is something important, something big in a boy's life, something one can never forget. For a man is not supposed to weep. Tears are for women and little girls. Men never cry. But his father wept, and he had wept in the parlour, the best room in the house. Yayan remembered the parlour with its aspidistra and heavy gilt-edged Bible resting on the stand before the lace-skirted windows. A parlour of horsehair sofas and sleek, shining, ice-cold chairs on which one sat as though in chapel. A parlour of glass-wreathed imitation flowers, fretwork-framed photographs of moustached and bearded men, of ladies in voluminous gowns, from under which no trace of ankle ever peeped. Photographs of little boys in velvet suits, white lace collars and cuffs, of little girls with plaited hair, berry-boned in starched frocks, with waists satin sashed. A parlour in a mean street of mean houses, above which the black smoke of factories curled. Houses each identical with its neighbour, brick for brick, slate for slate, chimney pot for chimney pot, room for room, rent for rent. Never again would he race across the sloping hawthorn-lined field, a red and green striped jersey on his back, a ball tucked firmly under his arm, and the tumultuous cheers of 1,000 schoolboys to spur him on towards the goal. He saw himself on People's Park, the town's team's football ground, captain of the cricket side chosen to play the Old Boys in the most important match of the season. And he had carried his bat for a good solid 51, which gave his team the win it never anticipated. Tony Maraciano, the ice cream man, stood within the humid shade of a weary sun-blistered oak, his little pony with head bowed, listless and sleepy-eyed. Parched schoolboys, their red and green caps rolled into pockets, climbed onto the hubs of the scorched yellow wheels and tendered their pennies for Tony's pyramids of sweetness. Suddenly, he heard the sound of voices raised in argument. He listened, tensed. His mother's voice shrilled up the stairway. Throwing back the blanket, he climbed slowly out of bed and opened the door. The mother's voice grew louder. Oh God, please, dear God, don't let them quarrel again, he prayed. Please let them be happy, dear God and sweet Jesus, my Saviour. He crept onto the landing and crouched against the banister, his heart beating loudly. The kitchen door was open. He saw his mother facing his father as he sat down to supper. Her eyes were blazing. Go on, he heard her shout. Call me a nincompoop. Say I'm not fit to be a mother to the children. Say it. Go on, say it. His father pushed aside the plate of cold meat and looked up. Be reasonable, Millie, he said. Why not let the boy stop in school? Griffiths was telling me the other day that there was a brilliant future for the lad. And then Lewis Thomas, the bank manager, mentioned him to me. Seems Lewis's boy is in the same class as Yayan. And he said how clever. The mother tossed her head impatiently. Let him stop in school, indeed. What's got into you? She stormed. He's almost 16, and it's time he should put into a job and do something useful. But Millie, you don't realise what's in front of the boy. Hard work for a little money, which will bring you no benefit in the long run. Believe me, it's far wiser to let him remain at school. Education is a fine thing, Millie. It'll lead him into a better job than the foundry. God knows I don't want him to fall into a job like mine, using a shovel and pushing a barrow around. Give the boy a chance. Why, even now it's not too late. You could see Bevan in the morning and explain to him that we've changed our minds. The mother frowned. We've changed our minds. I like that. I'm telling Mr. Bevan no such thing. Yayan goes into the foundry tomorrow. The father tried to remonstrate, but she cut him short. Don't look at me like that. I know you could have been a teacher if I hadn't come along, but it happened that you got married sooner than you expected, eh? And you had to earn quickly so that you could make a decent woman of me. Yayan waited anxiously, but the father said nothing. The clenched fist opened. Yayan sat down dejectedly on the stairway and drew his shirt over his cold knees. Nothing. Not a word had Dad said in answer to Mam's furious tirade, but just listened to it like a little boy being scolded. Why didn't he say something to show he wasn't frightened of her? Since Phyllis's birth, she had become moody and irritable, always nagging all the time. Dad never swung her on his knee anymore, and they never went to bed for a rest on Sunday afternoon. The comic cuts and the rainbow and the half an egg each he and Gwynaira looked forward to were only a memory. If only they could all be happy like they were in the old days, when the house echoed to the laughing and song, when his mother's beauty glowed and all was well with the world. Outside, the wind gently sighed. The trees in the garden stirred, and then all became still, and Ieuan slept, his face still wet with tears. Tomorrow, the foundry, a new life lay before him.